Jerry Jeudy is gone. He is headed to, oh, wait, the music is back. That makes it sound like it's happy news.
What are you talking about?
There
There's no music.
You didn't get the music again? I got music there again. Oh, yeah. Well, Jerry Jeudy's gone. He's headed to the Cleveland Browns. Broncos pick up a couple picks. More importantly, $13 million in cap space. What's your initial reaction, Zach?
Yeah, this is Sean Payton's team, and there was no question to that, but he has just dismantled the old Denver Broncos. The Broncos that he took over before he got here are absolutely gone. You look, Russell Wilson, one of the biggest blockbuster trades in NFL history. The Broncos have to eat double the dead cap double the dead cap of the history of dead caps. They have to eat that in order to move on from him. He's gone. Justin Simmons, Mr. Bronco, fan favorite, a staple of the Broncos since 2016. He's gone. And now one of the highest draft picks the Broncos have had in recent memory, Jerry Jeudy, the guy who was supposed to have all of the potential, he is gone. And the Broncos didn't get anything back in return for the three of these guys. Jerry Jeudy, yes, they did get a 5th and a 6th round pick, which equate to a 4th round pick. But Henry, you and I talked about just last year, it was the Broncos won a 1st round pick. I think you said you want a top 15 pick in order to move on from Jerry Jeudy a year ago. And now it comes to the Broncos. Sean Payton wants his team, his guys, his culture, his vision. And that's what we're seeing with these moves this week with really, you get a equivalent of a 4th round pick back for a guy that just 4 years ago was the 15th pick in the draft in an incredibly deep draft. That's nothing in return, and Sean doesn't care.
Yeah, it's about what we probably expected him to get. I think that's what the value is. I did my mock off season a couple days ago. I had him trading for a 4th round pick.
There you go. Nailed it.
It all kind of adds up because Jerry Jeudy's on a 1-year deal. It's worth $13 million. You look around the league at the receivers making $13 million a year. I'd take Jerry over those guys, but not by much. That's basically what his value is, and the contract expires after the season, so there's no huge upside for the new team. It could turn out to be a 1-year rental, and for that reason, the return makes a lot of sense. And I think going to Cleveland makes a lot of sense too. I was talking to Jerry. It was on the top 100 day when all the players vote for their top 100 players. He had Amari Cooper number 1 on his list. They fill out their top 20 players in the league. He had Amari number 1. I asked him about it. I was like, yeah, what's that about? He's like, yeah, that's the best receiver in the league. He doesn't get the respect he deserves because he's in Cleveland and all this sort of stuff. So I do think that pairing up those Bama guys again, it's a good move. I think it's a good situation for Jerry, and I think it made a lot of sense for the Broncos to pull the trigger.
Yeah, 100%. And now kind of looking at the Broncos moving forward, Henry, the Broncos could still move on from Courtland Sutton, but it seems like for now we know kind of the Broncos receiver room for this year. Courtland Sutton, Tim Patrick, and then Marvin Mims. That's a huge thing with this move, Henry. At the Combine, Sean Payton told us that a big reason why Marvin Mims didn't have that breakout year, didn't get on the field as much on offense, is because he plays the same role as Jerry Jeudy. And Sean said, we're going to have to do some things to get him on the field. It was our fault why he wasn't on the field as much last year, but he plays the same role as Jerry. How do you open up that spot? See you, Jerry. You send him away. And then Marvin Mims now takes that step. So I expect right now, my initial take is Marvin Mims is going to lead the Broncos in receiving yards this coming year. The Broncos have big plans for him. They had big plans for him last year, and Sean admitted it. They messed up. Now they just moved Jerry out of here, and now this is the Marvin Mims show. And honestly, Marvin Mims could be the Broncos' first 1,000-yard receiver since Cortland Sutton did it before the ACL injury. And so you look at this move, and when you view this move from a 30,000-foot view, it's depressing. Like, you didn't want to have to move on from Jerry Jeudy for the equivalent of a 4th-round pick 4 years after drafting him with the 15th pick. But when you look at it from the future move and from what the Broncos are looking at this year, it's probably a relief. There were off-field dramas with Jerry Jeudy as well, and now you get your young gun. You get Sean Payton's guy, Marvin Mims, in the biggest spot on this offense.
Yeah, it's definitely a big move. I still think that there's a chance that Cortland Sutton is gone, and maybe even a pretty good chance. It'll depend on what the price tag is, and we talked about before, but Cortland Sutton was the one thing on the offense last year that you just look at and say, do that again. The offensive line had its ups and downs, the running game ups and downs, tight ends all downs, but the one thing that worked over and over and over again, Cortland Sutton. So I do think that, especially if you're looking for a rookie quarterback, it makes sense to keep your most consistent and most productive receiver for the past half decade on the team. At the same time, though, given the situation you're in, you can save more money. And the Broncos have gotten to the point sitting there probably around $30 million in cap space, where they don't need to go make more moves to clear more cap space. It is an option, though. If they really want to save money this year, roll it over to take care of some of Russell Wilson's dead cap hit next year, that could make sense. Or if they just want to invest in other areas, that could make sense. So the Broncos, to me, have gotten to the point where they're safe. Like, they don't need to do any more in terms of cutting the roster down, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily done.
Yeah, 100%, Henry. And right now, Sean could come to us and say, like, no, we just made these moves because it was in the best interest of the team. And what we're going to do now is we're not rebuilding. But if the Broncos really want to send the message and show it that they are rebuilding, you absolutely cut DJ Jones. You save $10 million. You move on from Cortland Sutton. You save bigger cap space as well. Maybe you get another 4th-ish round pick in return, something around there similar to what you got for Jerry Jeudy. There's still many more moves that the Broncos could make. But, Henry, a big thing with this is the Broncos don't have to make any more moves in a time-sensitive manner right now, because this Jerry Jeudy trade doesn't become truly official until Wednesday, but they're already under the cap for Wednesday, which they had to be before that new league year starts. So they don't have to make any other moves, where they did have to make these couple of moves. Justin Simmons, Tim Patrick, releasing Chris Manhertz. They had to do those moves before Wednesday. Now there's just there's no pressure in terms of a time sensitivity thing for them to do that in the next couple of days. So if Cortland Sutton's still on the roster in a week, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's absolutely going to be a Bronco moving forward.
Definitely. And that could be a trade that comes on draft day or at any point. I do think we haven't brought up on the podcast the deals or the moves that went down yesterday. You mentioned, though, the Broncos moved on from Chris Manhertz, effectively saves about $2 million in cap space. I think it says $3 million, but then another player takes the spot, which is going to cost about $1 million. He's gone. I was a little surprised by that one. I just thought you'd at least keep him for training camp. And then the other one, they saved about $11 million by tweaking Mike McGlinchey's deal. Now, that's not taking any money away from Mike. Mike is still getting all the money he gets. Just accounting wise, that $11 million will be paid in the future in terms of purely accounting wise, which is why the Broncos are now at this place. I do think that it's also important. You brought up the deadline Wednesday to be salary cap compliant. They definitely don't need to make any more moves, but because they are already or since they're so close to that number, they probably have like $4 million in wiggle room. That's why they couldn't re-sign their own players right now if they wanted to. If they wanted to go get Lloyd Cushenberry, they would have to wait until Wednesday because they couldn't submit that deal, which would take up the cap space. Same thing with Josie Jewell. So I do think that they're in a situation where they could really be done until free agency opens, and it's exciting. I think we might finally have like these pieces in place so that they can put this team together.
Yeah, and I think the most exciting thing about this is okay, we're getting to see Sean Payton's vision now. And clearly last year, it was about trying to make it work. Sean Payton trying to make it work with the team he had, specifically Russell Wilson, but also not just giving up on Jerry Jeudy. He wanted to see if he could make it work with him and some other these other players that he inherited. And he's clearly saying, yeah, that's not the vision that I wanted. And I think that's fair. He gave it a year with the team that he inherited, but I think there was that agreement with ownership. Okay, I'll do this for a year. And then if it doesn't work, let me make the big moves. And he's certainly made the big moves. Moving on from Russell Wilson, obviously a huge move. Moving on from Justin Simmons, a massive move. And then Jerry Jeudy as well, because there's still that potential there. Like, if I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, I think this is probably a good move for the Broncos. But if I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, I'm looking at this move and saying, okay, equivalent of a 4th-round pick for a guy that is, 24 years old and potential. Like, this, I think, is a win-win for both sides here because Jerry just didn't fit the Sean Payton Broncos moving forward. And Henry, you mentioned the re-signings that Broncos could have. I don't expect the Broncos to re-sign Lloyd Cushenberry. I don't
Neither do I.
expect the Broncos to re-sign Josie Jewell. But that one guy to keep your eye on, and maybe why a deal hasn't happened, and maybe the only deal that might happen until Wednesday officially, is Will Lutz. That's a guy that we've talked about. Franchise tag, no franchise tag. They didn't use a franchise tag on him. I do expect that Will Lutz is going to be signed, whether it's today, whether it's Wednesday, Thursday. That's really the only move that I expect in the next couple of days.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I agree that like Cleveland should be thrilled with this trade. Um, Jerry Jeudy playing the Broncos offense is not an easy thing to do. You go somewhere where you have a dominant running game. You're playing against stacked boxes. Jerry Judy's getting single covered, and it's Amari Cooper on the other side. So Jerry's being double covered by the or single covered man coverage by the second best cornerback on that team. Like, he should be thrilled about that. It's a perfect fit for him, and it's not like he hasn't been productive. It's just that he hasn't been productive as you'd hope for a top 15 pick. There's nothing about what he's done that says he's not a starting receiver in the NFL. Throwing that he's 24, throwing the bad fit. I mean, he had 1,000 yards from scrimmage in the offense that was led by Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson. That's pretty crazy. And if you're putting up 1,000 yards in that offense, I mean, put him on the Bills. That's 1,500 yards there. It's 1,400 yards there. So yeah, I think that it's an awesome deal for Cleveland fans. At the same time, though, I mean, if he plays well, you're going to have to pay him after the season. If he doesn't play well, then it was just a bad trade. So
and that's exactly it. That's why Broncos fans yeah, the Broncos, just like with Russ, if Russ does sign with the Steelers, we know the Steelers are like a guaranteed winning season just because that's what Mike Tomlin does. The Broncos could look bad if Russ goes there and gets them to the playoffs. The Broncos, from a big perspective, or I guess from a small perspective, could look bad if Jerry Jeudy goes out and has his first 1,000-yard season next year. But one of the things that you brought up over the past couple of weeks, Henry, which is something that Broncos fans have to remember if Jerry Jeudy does go out and has a career year this coming year, is, well, it comes with a big price tag next year as well. And clearly the Broncos are tearing things down from a financial standpoint to kind of build for the future. And if Jerry went out and had 1,000 yards this year, he's probably not getting $30 million a year, but are you going to sign up for $20 million for Jerry moving forward and the 13 that you paid him this year? Now you save that $13 million, get a couple of draft picks, but the big thing is the $13 million in cap savings.
100%. Yeah. Last thought for me before we hit these super chats. Get them in now if you haven't yet. It's really nice having all those late round picks. It's not nearly as exciting as if you've had second and third round picks, but going from 6 picks to 8 picks is massive because we've talked about things like, if you draft a quarterback in the first round, you couldn't draft another quarterback because you just can't justify it with the picks you have, because you already have Stidham, you have all these other needs. Now you have some flexibility there. If you like Joe Milton, you could try that RG3 Kirk Cousins thing. On top of that, it's a deep receiver class. If you go into the season with Mims and Patrick and Sutton, you could look at that and say, we have enough here. And it's just tough to justify drafting another receiver. Now with 8 picks, it's a lot easier because you just have more flexibility. You can double up at positions. trade up, obviously, trade back. So while these picks aren't obviously premium picks, they do allow the Broncos to do a whole bunch of different things. You know, if you don't love the defensive lineman who's sitting there in the third round, you can wait because you know that you can use 2 of your 5th on defensive linemen, 2 of your 6th on defensive linemen because you like somebody else better. So I think that that's important as well.
Yeah, George Payton absolutely loves this trade for a couple of reasons. One, George Payton's got a lot of heat the past year, especially this past week with the Russell Wilson deal, but he's not tied to Jerry Jeudy at all. That was a John Elway draft pick. So moving on from Jerry means nothing for George, and George loves accumulating picks. He loves late round picks. I think you and George love late round picks as much as anyone, Henry. So now you go from 6 picks, which is under the 7, which is like the average, to now you get 8. So now you have 1 in the 1st, you have 1 in the 3rd, 1 in the 4th, 3 in the 5th, and then 2 in the 6th as well. So it does give you some flexibility where the Broncos aren't going to be able to use these late round picks to go from 12 to 5, but they could use these late round picks to go from 12 to 10. And the Minnesota Vikings, as of right now, they don't have Kirk Cousins on their roster. They need a quarterback. So making that 2-spot move could be big.
Definitely. All right, let's hit these super chats. First one from John Clay Eventing, a verb. Event. He probably makes videos of the events that he puts together. They need to trade PS2 for 2 firsts. Ooh. Having the best cornerback in the league is a luxury that a bad team can't afford. I would get it if they did it. I mean, you look at this draft and say, even if it isn't in a move to trade up, I think whenever we talk about trading Pat Surtain, it's in a move to get from 12 to 2, 12 to 3, whatever that may be. Having 12, 15, and 20, throw in like a future pick too. I mean, that would be a pretty fun situation to be sitting in. Now, I'm not sure I'd actually do it. You'd have to find a team with multiple firsts this year, I think, ideally. And I'm just not even sure who that is other than the Bears who aren't trading number 1. So I probably wouldn't go and trade Pat Surtain, but I think the Broncos are in a situation where you got to listen to the offers.
Yeah, John, I totally understand where you're coming from, saying that having an elite cornerback, the best cornerback in the NFL, is a luxury. If he was 29 years old, then I'd be like, yeah, go and trade him, get what you can, because he's not going to be part of the team. But with how young Pat is, he is going to be part of the team. If the Broncos are ever going to be good in the next 5-10 years, Pat Surtain is going to be part of it. So the only reason that I personally would be open to trading Pat is if it involves getting Sean Payton's quarterback. And so that means, having to make a massive move up, and a team wants 12 and Pat in order to go from, with the Cardinals from 4 back to 12. That's the only reason why I'd be open to trading Pat. I'm not trading Pat for picks.
Yeah, I'd also say that just about any position having the best player in the league is a luxury. You get that. It's like, oh, it's a luxury cornerback. Yeah, it's a luxury at linebacker and defensive line. I think it's a luxury at edge rusher. I think it's a luxury at every position to have the best player. This one coming in from Morty R. Wait, so that's not a dollar sign either. I don't know where that money is from.
Is that shekels?
That could be what a shekel is. I don't know what a shekel is.
I have no idea.
I've heard it before. But he says
6 of them though.
6, hopefully. I mean, those could be worth a lot or not very much. Can we please get BMAC back?
Wait, Brandon McManus?
Yeah, no, you're not getting BMAC back. I do think with Will Lutz, the kicker market is just so deep this year. To me, you hold off. I mean, you saw Kaimi Fairbairn, one of the very, very, very best kickers in the league, just sign a deal for $5 million a year. Lutz is coming off $4 million a year for 5 years. That's you certainly can't pay him anymore, and it's just a tough situation with a player who's already making that much money to say, like, you should probably be making less. But yeah, to me, you let this kicker market kind of play out here because you should be able to get Will Lutz a couple weeks in and hopefully save some money. But yeah, people do love BMAC, and I can't blame him for that.
Yeah, people love BMAC, but I'm not quite sure Sean Payton loves Brandon McManus. And just remember, one of the very first moves that Sean Payton made before Brandon ever played for him was cut him. I think that speaks volumes to that, and he loves Will Lutz. So I think you make a good point about Will Lutz, is that maybe you can actually get a deal for him. But I expect Will Lutz to be the Broncos kicker, maybe for a cheaper price than I was expecting initially, though.
Yeah. Also, I love this isn't a super chat. Mr. Rocket saying, trade Court, please. I'm tired of him complaining. He's complaining about all of his friends being traded and cut. Like that's, I mean, it's if there's a time to complain, that's it. Okay, we gotta keep moving. Steven Sholey, Hank always repping hashtag Go Grizz. Yes, Go Grizz, fight on.
You're repping the Grizz and Coors Light.
Oh yeah, no, it's a full Montana vibe here. Morty R is back again with 30 more shekels. We just found out. He says that's shekels. BMAC is the goat. BMAC is the goat. Wow, that's awesome. We just got even more shekels by talking about
racking up the shekels here.
Yeah,
you know, right. I need them. I'm in a mountain town right now.
Oh boy,
was literally about to walk out the door to hit the slopes when I heard from someone that said, you might want to be ready for some news coming. And then the news came.
Yeah. Where are you?
I'm in Crested Butte right now. So I don't know if you can see, but the mountain right there. So yeah, everyone just left me. I'm just at our little mountain chalet by myself right now.
Wow. Well, you better catch up to them. Hopefully we aren't doing this again in an hour because there's more news. But yeah. That's one more, just more shekels sneaking in here at the end. I have no idea how much we're making. Morty R says, any chance we re-sign Justin? No, I don't think so. I mean, in that case, you just negotiate with him before. I after you cut the guy, he's not. It would be a situation where his market doesn't fulfill what he thinks it will be, and so he's accepting that he's only going to be making $8 million this year, so he might take a 1-year deal so he can try again next year. And in that case, he's not coming crawling back to the Broncos saying you were right. I'm not. I don't deserve as much money as I thought. Like, he's just going to go somewhere else. I think that bridge is kind of burned at the moment.
Exactly, 100%, Henry. And then along with that, if he is going to take a pay cut, he will go to a team where it makes more sense in terms of like winning a championship to go take a pay cut, not coming back to the Broncos, who are tearing down at the moment right now. And also my understanding is that Justin was open to an extension and the Broncos didn't want to do extensions with anyone right now. So it would have been a pay cut. And I understand Justin saying, no, I'll go take a pay cut. If I have to take a pay cut, I'll go take it with a contender.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, that'll do it today. Let's get out of here before we get more shekels. And we'll see you on Monday, if not sooner.